All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, YouTube. This is Rosh, and this is AxeFX III Basics. So I'm putting together a video series for all you guys. So a little about me. I'm an LA-based guitar player and guitar tech. Some of my clients include Leppard, Steve Vai, Dweezil Zappa, Melissa Etheridge, Perfect Circle, and a whole bunch of others. So I wanted to give back to the Fractal community and put together a video series of some of the basics and my approaches to building presets. So in this episode, we are going to cover parallel and series routing for your time-based effects. So this is definitely where we start kind of branching out a little bit into some more advanced topics. I will definitely still cover some of the other basics in future videos. So let's talk about what the differences between parallel and series are. So let's do a quick build and input, output, amp, and a cabinet. Okay, so in this, what we'll do is connect a shunt, and I'm going to just use like a clean sound. So let's start with maybe like a deluxe reverb or something. So we'll do the vibrato channel, and then we'll do 1x12, and let's see, deluxe verb right there. Okay, so, and let's bring down that input drive a little bit, because at 5, that would be the deluxe reverb halfway turned up, which would be pretty loud. Okay, so decent clean sound. Let's level it out a little bit. Okay, cool. So there are two approaches when you're using time-based effects, and when I say time-based, I'm talking about basically reverb and delay. There are other time-based effects, but let's talk about just the basics for here. Okay, so here we have a reverb, and with my go-to settings, again, 3 dB on the level, 50% mix, and using the input gain to adjust how much of the reverb you want. The reason, again, if you haven't seen some of my other videos, the reason why you want to do this is so that there's no volume drop if you bypass the reverb. So if you are hearing a quote-unquote level drop, that's just the stereo spread, but there is definitely no level drop in between bypassing the reverb and not having it there. Now, this is definitely one approach, not the only approach. So this is in series. So for example, if you put a delay, you run into one problem. And if you can't see it, what happens is your signal goes through here, goes through your amp and cab, goes into the delay block, and now your echo repeats also have reverb on it. So if you listen to just the echo repeats, they have reverb. So I put the delay, the echo at 100% mix, so you're only hearing the wet signal. And here's what it sounds like with reverb. Let's even make it more apparent. And then here's without reverb. Definitely something you can hear the difference. So one of the things that came up, or people do, is they wire their effects in parallel. So what's happening is this. So we're connecting our shunts to go through this, which is called the dry signal, and then we have the wet signal coming from both ends. Now, we run into a lot of leveling issues, so you'll probably hear that this is a totally different volume now. And we can even meter it. So we just gained a ton of volume doing this. So what's the solution? Whenever you're running effects in parallel, like this, what you always want to do is set the mix to 100% wet on whatever effects you're doing. So for now, let's just get rid of this delay. Let's talk about this reverb. So instead of using my 50% mix with 3 dB level, you actually mix with 100% wet, and also the input gain is all the way up. And now the level knob actually controls how much of the reverb effect you want. So if I bring this way down, it's still kind of there in the background if you listen carefully. And then let's crank that up. once you cross the 0 dB threshold, that means now you're going to hear more reverb than you're going to hear dry signal. At 0 dB, that means that there's an equal amount of volume going from the dry signal to the wet signal. So if we crank this up, obviously it's a lot louder, but you're also hearing more of the reverb rather than the dry sound. So this is another great way to control how much of the effect you want while keeping your tone pure. Now, you don't hear it much with a clean sound, but let's say we use a dirty sound. So let's use a plexi, and let's pick a 412. And let's do maybe 70s with greenbacks. Okay, so and for this particular amp, it's one of those crank everything up to 10 kind of vibe. So and let's make sure, oops, we'll do that at 100 and 8500. Okay, so now we have a dirty amp. Let's pull the treble down a little bit. So now that we're running this in parallel, you can hear that there's still this pure tone with the reverb sound. So you get it's a dry sound is totally pure, and you're just adding reverb to it, as opposed to doing something where you're running it in series. We'll do the go-to settings again for running in series. So now you hear that your tone is actually affected, even if you pull the input gain down. There's definitely something different about this sound, as opposed to running in parallel. Now, one's not better than the other, it's just a different approach, because if you definitely want your dry signal to get unaffected, then this is definitely the way to go. So again, 100% mix, 100% gain, level at 0. This means it's a 50-50 ratio right now between the reverb and the dry sound. We can pull that down. And the cool thing is that the volume stays exactly the same. Okay, so the other reason why you want to start running some of your effects in parallel as opposed to series is also for the original thing that I presented was that your delay, your echo repeats, do not have reverb on it. So if we listen, see there's no reverb, you get this reverb sound. Let's just delete this shunt for right now. And then you can hear that the echo repeats sound just like that. And then they're going to sound exactly the same even with the reverb in there. So for example, this delay repeat, since it's a digital delay, there's definitely a lot more fidelity to the sound. So this is definitely a great way so that you can isolate what each element of your tone is going to be. So for something like this, I'd probably use maybe more of an analog sound. So as opposed to if you did it in series, or do something like this, delete that. And we definitely need to make sure that this is, so you can hear the tone just kind of thins out a little bit because 100% of your tone is going through this delay effect and none of the dry signal is going there. You're using the mix knob to blend in the dry signal. We want to retain this sound and then just add effects to it. And again, if you need more of the echo sound, you would pull the level up, or if you need less of it, you pull it down. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So probably bring the whole level of this down just a little bit. So you see that, this only changes the volume once you cross the level threshold. So just make sure that the mix is 100% and the input gain is 100%. Up until 0, which is unity, now you have even ratio of delay repeats and also an even ratio of the reverb. So that's one method and way to differentiate between running your effects in series or parallel. One's not better than the other. It's just depending on what you're going for. If you definitely don't want your delay repeats to have reverb on it, you got to run in parallel, such as this. All right, so that'll wrap up today's episode. Till next time, if there's any topics you guys want me to cover, I would be more than happy to. Feel free to send me a message.